You like that little fade in effect? Yes, I'm back. You didn't think, a lot of folks didn't think I was coming back. I knew I was. I knew I was coming back because I had to come back. There are some unfinished things that the Voodoo Garden needs to do. By the way, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this long-running fun I like to call the Voodoo Garden. Simply put, the Voodoo Garden started out as me wanting to help others, you, learn the fun of growing indoors, because some of us may not be able to get outdoors. Some of us prefer to grow indoors to outdoors. Some of us want to try different things. And so I thought that maybe a Voodoo Garden channel, which would be indoor growing, would help some folks with that. Now the difference between my channel here, the Voodoo Garden, and other indoor gardening channels was that I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't trying so much to teach people as I was going to take you along, have you join me for the journey of me learning. Because I've grown indoors for many, many years, yet I hadn't grown so intensely as I have with the Voodoo Garden. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to experiment and try different things. A lot of folks have grown indoor plants like, you know, aloe, ferns, cactuses, succulents, vines, things like that indoors. Yet there are so many other things that we can do indoors. And so my experiment, as it is, was to try to grow outside of common thinking, grow outside the box, so to speak, and try different things. And that's where the Voodoo Garden came in. The name Voodoo Garden, for me, was something that was different, something that was not understood, not common. And so I took the word voodoo and I put it into the garden. It had nothing to do with magic or demon worship or anything weird like that. It had just to do with things that are unexpected, things that you don't know about, things that you don't know about yet. And so that's why I brought out the name Voodoo Garden, because I think all things are possible. If you want to try it, if you want to experiment, if you want to extend yourself, you can actually extend your fun in the growing of indoors as opposed to outdoors. So that's what the Voodoo Garden started out as. I've been doing this for many, many years, and most of you have been with me for quite a long time. This season is going to be, I've done a lot of thinking about this, so I want to go through this with you because you've been with me for so long. This season is going to be something different from every other season I've ever had in the Voodoo Garden. With respect to, this is going to be the final season of the Voodoo Garden. I know there's a lot of groans out there. I know. Some of you are groaning, some of you are gasping, some of you are yelling, some of you are throwing your plants at the TV right now. But let me explain, okay? Let me explain, because this makes perfect sense from my point of view. I've done so many things with the Voodoo Garden. So many different episodes, so many different seasons, so many different ways of growing, so many different experiments, successes, failures. A lot of different things have gone on in the Voodoo Garden. Now, I think for the final voyage, the final season of the Voodoo Garden should be its best. And this is how I plan to make it its best. I want the Voodoo Garden to grow, because things have been really strange in the world. You've noticed that. And the Voodoo Garden is not immune to the influences of the outside world. Getting out and about at this time in my life is really difficult because it's a dangerous time out there. We have a pandemic, an epidemic going around. We have a lot of fear going around. And I'm a person who wants to make sure that I'm going to live to see tomorrow. So I want to make sure that I'm very, very cautious. And going to the grocery store every week to get fresh vegetables is something that I consider a little bit of a risk for me. And it's a risk I don't want to take. So I thought about it. And how can I get around this? I mean, lettuce doesn't keep for very long. Radishes, carrots, things like that. They don't keep for very long, and I don't want to eat canned food throughout the whole winter. So I thought, the Voodoo Garden can serve my purpose in this respect. What I'm going to do this final season of the Voodoo Garden is I divested the room, and I'll show you the room in just a second. I divested the room of many of the plants that you saw. No, I did not throw them away. People have heard me throw away plants that I throw away plants that I don't need anymore. No, this time I did something different. I found good homes, good solid homes that will take very good care of all the inhabitants of the Voodoo Garden, except for a few of my favorites. I have the Agave right over there. That's that big plant over there, Agave. I have a holiday cactus, Christmas cactus, Thanksgiving cactus, whatever you want to call it, I have it over here. This is my prehistoric palm that I have over here. The Prince of Orange behind me. I couldn't leave the Prince of Orange out. We have Mike's Aloe Vera. I grew this from an itty bitty plant. Remember, those of you who have been here for a few years. This started as one of those cheap little 99-cent plants from Walmart. I planted it, grew up because Mike, my best friend who lives with me, he likes aloes. He always has liked aloes. He's been fascinated with them, so I grow this for him. This is Mike's plant. And the final one here is some kind of weird citrus that I started out, I think, last year. Remember, I started this plant, and it has these little itty-bitty lime-looking oranges that are very tart, but the flavor of them is wonderful. You know, people say that whatever this is, I'll show you up close. Whatever this is, you're not supposed to eat the fruit because it's just ornamental and they're very, very sour. It turns out, yes, they are sour, but they're full of pectin. So what I've been doing is slicing them in half, squeezing the juice into a container, and I use that juice instead of lime or lemon juice whenever I'm making stuff like guacamole. Whenever it needs a little lime juice, I use this juice from this plant. Also, when I'm making blueberry pie, I use a little bit of lemon juice instead. Whatever this thing is called has been supplying me with that in abundance. I didn't think that I'd get fruit because it had flowers that smelled like the most incredible, beautiful fragrance I've ever smelled in my life. And this is one heck of a useful plant. So this one is going to stay. When I close up the Voodoo Garden at the end of the season, these plants are going upstairs and they're going to be growing throughout the house. These are going to be my permanent residence of the Voodoo Garden. But this room right here, when I close it down and remove all the lighting, this room is not going to just go away and fade off into history. This room for me is going to serve a second purpose. I have an online seed store called Little Shop of Seeds. Many of you know this. I sell garden seeds to folks who want to grow things, who want to just vegetable seeds, you know, like radishes, carrots, lettuce, things like that. Mainstream vegetable seeds that are grown organically, which is something that I've always done throughout the years and I tend to favor, is organic. So what I did was I stocked a little tiny store with about 75 different items, and they are organically grown seeds, which is not easy to find. Most seeds are grown with chemicals and stuff. These are grown organically. They're sourced from folks who grow organically, and they harvest the seeds, and I buy them in bulk and I sell them online for a very small price, 55 cents a packet, and they're fresh, high germination rate, and they're at a lower cost than anybody else. The reason I can do this is because I do generic packaging. That's what I do for a living, and that supports me in everything that I do. YouTube used to support me, but not so much anymore because the ads, they don't pay like they used to. So I have to have a business in order to keep myself fed. What happens is I have the seeds and everything stored in my basement. And that's not a very convenient place to do that. So what I thought was I can use this room here to line with shelves and store all the seeds for Little Shop of Seeds. And I thought that this would be an appropriate transition for the Voodoo Garden, because I like to say that all things are possible. And what are seeds other than possibilities? Seeds are possibilities. They are the future of our gardens. So I thought this would be an appropriate way for the Voodoo Garden to spend its golden years, is as the storage room and the processing room for Little Shop of Seeds. So the Voodoo Garden doesn't really die. It's just going to go into a new transition. So I'll be using this for the room for Little Shop of Seeds. No, I won't be doing programs in it because there's really nothing to do in it. But I wanted to tell you that. And so I wanted to have one last big hurrah for the Voodoo Garden, and what I've decided to do is grow every piece of green that I plan to eat. And I think I can do that in just a little tiny room. This room is only about maybe 10 by 10. Some folks think the Voodoo Garden is actually quite large. It's actually quite small. I just have it all arranged differently. Now what I have is I have the lights around here, little LED lights, no outside light, no windows, and I thought, what can I do in order to supply myself, and of course Mike, two people, with all the greens that they could possibly eat during the winter. I took a selection from Little Shop of Seeds. I went through the shelves And I just, the only things I'm growing are things that I sell, because I didn't want to go out and buy extra stuff. I figured, well, I have a seed store right here. Why not just use that? So here's what I have. I have arugula. I'm just going to list off the things I'm growing, and then we can go along with the journey, and you can see if I can do it, and if I can, maybe it'll give you inspiration so that you can grow things as well in your home by a sunny window underneath a light. You don't have to do all of these, but it gives you an idea of what can be done when all things are considered possible. Okay, arugula. Arugula is a wonderful plant that I just discovered recently, and I added to the little shop of seeds. It's normally used for salads, and it's got a bit of a bitter taste to it, but then again, it's not a bad taste. It's a good flavor. This is what I've heard. I've never actually had arugula, so I thought, why not try arugula? I'm not going to give you full descriptions and uses of these plants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grow them, and then we're going to go along together, and I'm going to taste test them, use them in like salads, stir fries, things like that, snacking. And that goes along with my diet as well, because I'm eating a little bit more healthy. Arugula. Gourmet lettuce. Remember I grew gourmet lettuce last year? Yep. I'm going to grow gourmet lettuce because I love all the different textures, flavors, looks of this lettuce. There are reds and greens and purples and stuff. It's a gourmet lettuce mix, so it's all different kinds of lettuce, and I don't even know what they're all called because it doesn't say in the description. But it has a whole bunch of different kinds. That way I don't have to grow this one, this one, this one. I just sprinkle it in there, and I never know what I'm going to come up with. Gourmet lettuce, 3 different kinds of radishes, because I love radishes. I do. French breakfast, crimson giant, and white icicle. And people don't normally think of growing radishes indoors. Last year, I even had a picture of it on a video. I actually grew 2 radishes here in the Voodoo Garden. Not little tiny wimpy ones, full-size radishes. I picked them, showed you, and I think I even ate them on camera. But I want to grow radishes. So I'm going to grow radishes in the Voodoo Garden. There's collards. I want to grow collards because I think I might have grown them once, but I didn't grow them to their full potential. I want to try and grow collards in here because I love collards, chopped up. Greens, any kind of greens I like in my cooking. So I added collards, I added michihili, Chinese cabbage. It's kind of like bok choy in a way, but not really bok choy, but it is a Chinese cabbage. So that is going to go good for the stir fries, and also with quinoa. This is something that I've changed over from eating white rice to quinoa because it's better for me. It doesn't have all that starch. And so I wanted to try that, and it turns out I love quinoa. I never thought about it, and I tried it. It's a wonderful thing. On the Practice 55712 channel, one of these days this winter, I'm going to do a cooking video, and I'll take you upstairs into the kitchen. I'll show you how I use quinoa, and it's actually really, really good, and it's inexpensive, and it's so easy to cook. It's so incredibly easy to cook. I'll go over that sometime and things that I add to it, okay? Cilantro. I gotta have cilantro because whenever I make Asian food, I like cilantro. Also Mexican food. I do a lot of Mexican food, and I never can get fresh cilantro at the grocery store, especially in my area. If you get fresh cilantro, because dried stuff sucks. It does. I hate to say it, but it does. It sucks. Fresh cilantro, there's nothing quite like fresh. And I want to grow it, but at the store it's all limp and wimpy, and it costs a fortune. So you're paying a fortune for this little tiny, I go like this, a little tuft of cilantro that you got to use within a couple days. I want to grow cilantro in here so that I can just pick it whenever I want it. So I want cilantro, I want onions, but I can't grow full-size onions in here because it would take too long. My solution, green onions or spring onions, hishiko. Those are the onions, green onions that I normally grow outside, and I sell them at the little shop of seeds. I sprinkle those seeds in. I'm going to be growing those. Nice thing about growing those, you can chop off the tops as they grow, use them, and they keep growing back. So it's a forever thing. It's like mowing the grass. Hishiko, and also Swiss chard. I've grown Swiss chard outside, and it grew to a monster. I think I picked that, and I did on the Praxis channel. I got this plant. It was this huge monolithic thing that I grew, and I finally picked it. It took 2 hands to pull that thing up, and the stem was about as big around as my wrist. The leaves were a couple feet long. It was insane. We could not eat that stuff fast enough, and so I want to grow that indoors because I thought, you know what, I do like Swiss chard, and that particular variety, Lucullus, that's the type that I chose. It has beautiful white stems, beautiful dark green leaves, and plenty of them. So I'm going to be growing that in here. I don't know if I'm going to have room. It's probably going to look something like this. It's going to be huge. You got to stay tuned for that. Something that you don't normally see grown, clover. Clover. Yeah, Why not clover? I actually sell clover seeds, and this isn't just regular clover. This is crimson clover that grows a big, huge red flower that is normally used in tea. Yeah, clover tea. And it also can be eaten like in salads. You just chop it up. It adds a beautiful color, flavor, texture to salads. The leaves can be eaten. It's a wonderful thing. I think it's high in protein or something like that. Yep, I'm going to be growing that. I don't know if I can grow clover indoors, but I figure why not try. Alfalfa. Yep, I'm actually growing alfalfa plants, and I'm growing them seeds in a pot, and I'm going to grow alfalfa plants and pluck the leaves and use those in my salads, cooking, sandwiches, things like that. But also alfalfa sprouts. I love alfalfa sprouts. Bean sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, they go good on sandwiches and also stir fries. But I'm going to do alfalfa sprouts. And that's what you can do with alfalfa seeds. Just throw them in a container, add water, drain the water, keep them moist. And I actually have some right by your feet over there. I'll show you those. And within 24 hours, they sprouted. So within a week, I'm going to have a container full of alfalfa sprouts. I eat those, toss a few more seeds in. I can have alfalfa sprouts in different stages of maturity and have those continuously all winter long. They're incredible. And with alfalfa sprouts, normally you get those anemic looking ones in the grocery store. They're kind of white and everything. They're very tender and stuff. But if you take alfalfa sprouts and you give them bright light, which is what I have in here, they will green up a bit. It will increase the flavor. It will increase the nutrition. And it doesn't cost you anything. You just throw them in there, a pinch of seeds, and poof, you got something that's absolutely delicious and good for you too. Let's see, what else we got? Kale. I'm going to grow kale in here. Spinach. Oh, snow peas. Snow peas, yeah. I'm going to see what I can do about growing snow peas. You can eat the leaves, and of course you can eat the pea pods. But I'm going to see if I can maybe grow them over here and have them vine up and get pea pods from it, because you can grow them in the shade outside. I figured this is brighter than shade, so why not grow snow peas? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever seen anybody grow snow peas indoors? Well, if I do it right, you'll see me do it. And if I can do it, you can do it. And the final thing I want to grow is cherry tomatoes. Beefsteak tomatoes would be a challenge in here, but the Prax cherry, remember the Prax cherry? I've been growing that for over a decade or so. The Prax cherry, I have some seeds, just a few, and I'm going to grow it in here, and then I'm going to just let it vine up. I did this last year too, and I had cherry tomatoes. I'm going to grow a Prax cherry tomato in here and see if I can get me tomatoes all throughout the winter. That'll be something that's kind of nice, because I don't like getting tomatoes from the grocery store. All of these different things are designed to help me be a little bit more self-sufficient in my greens, and I figured, well, I do have, and I'm not growing this, by the way, with any special means. And that's one of the things that's going to be a little bit different of the Voodoo Garden than it's ever been before. Normally, I'm making my own compost. I'm mixing in worm castings and potting mix and using all kinds of organic means in order to grow this. Well, I wanted this to be as much of a demo for everyday folks as I can possibly make it. So I thought, well, many folks can't make organic compost, and also the stores don't normally sell it during the winter. What could I do that they can do at home? Now, this is something that some folks may not agree with, but then again, I wanted to make sure that my programs are for everybody. Not just this crowd, not just this crowd, but for everybody. And since I've been growing organic in the Voodoo Garden for so long, one thing I wanted to do, one time only, is to grow with not just organic means. So what I did was, I went out and I bought potting soil. Regular Miracle-Gro potting soil. I didn't think I'd ever do that again, but I did. I loaded up and they were on sale. So I got just bags of regular Miracle-Gro potting soil. I threw them in containers and I planted the seeds. One thing I did do online is I ordered worm castings, and I mixed it in, just a few worm castings in with the potting soil. And what that does, it brings in the enzymes, bacteria, fungi, things like that, which will take the potting soil, which is normally kind of a lifeless soil with artificial man-made fertilizers in it, and it adds an organic ingredient to it without spending a lot of money. So I'm growing in both methods all in one pot. That's what I'm going to do here in the Voodoo Garden. Now, I'm going to grab you, and don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'll grab you and I'm going to swing you around the room and show you what the new and improved, well, maybe not improved, but the new Voodoo Garden is going to look like for its final voyage. I wanted to do a little close-up of this weird little fruit tree. I don't know what it's called. Folks told me, and I used to have a tag for it, but you know me and my absent mind, I don't know where the tag went. I think the plant ate it. But it puts out these little flowers, and I will try and take you in nice and careful. See the white flower here? Yep, that's going to open up, and the smell of orange blossoms is something else. It's got new growth coming out all over the place. But look at the little fruits. They're itty bitties, aren't they? Yep. They're just tiny fruits. They don't get very big. They get like marbles. They start out green, and then they eventually will turn orange. This one isn't quite ripe yet. They will turn orange, and then they'll put out more flowers. Yeah, it's not a very remarkable plant, but it does really well in here for some reason. It seems to like it in the Voodoo Garden. I'm going to swing over past Mike's aloe, this stumpy little thing. It's not my kind of plant, but it is his, so I do like to grow it for him. And every now and then he comes down into the Voodoo Garden and he checks it out. This is the Prince. This is the plant I've had for so long, and when I'm done with this season of the Voodoo Garden, I'm going to chop off the large plant here. It's all going into the compost pile outdoors, this huge plant, and its son, second generation Prince, will be transplanted into a new pot with brand new soil and taken upstairs. So Prince Generation 2 is going to live on and raise house. Now let's go one right over here. This is the, what is it this thing called? It's called a sago palm. And people remind me it's not a real palm. I'm just saying what the name of it is. Okay, it's a sago. And these things fascinate me because I've always been a fan of dinosaurs and prehistoric times. And I've told friends that if I ever had the opportunity to time travel, I wouldn't go into the future. I wouldn't go back 10 years, 15 years. I'd go back to when dinosaurs were here and the earth was young. I would love to see these things back in their natural environment back then, in an unspoiled earth, growing naturally, because these things have been around for hundreds of millions of years. They've seen continents drift, creatures come and go, civilizations, and they're still here. Well, this one's still in the Voodoo Garden. Now this one I had since it was real itty bitty. Those of you who saw it, you saw me plant it in here. It was just this little tiny potted plant for a few dollars. I put it in here, transplanted it, and look, it's put out so many flowers over the years. And look at this, all the way around, everywhere you look. Yep, it's getting ready to flower on the tips of it. It's going to be a host of flowers. It's going to be all pinkish red. And I'll give you some hints, some tips on how to grow this. Don't overwater it. They will hate you. They will hate you. What you do is you give it a good watering, let it dry out. Let it dry out. And then water it again. Regular everyday potting soil is all I use for this thing, and it seems to do fine. And then this one, this is the agave. You remember him. He started out as an itty bitty plant. He had children. I yanked those out and tossed them out. But this is the agave. And it doesn't look like normal agaves, but there are different types. Most of them have the thick leaves and they're shorter. Nope, look at this one. He is armed to the teeth. Yeah, you got to be careful. These things will shiv you. And I know, I've been there before. I wanted to keep him because I was just wondering if maybe someday he'll gift me with a flower stalk. You know, I would be very, very happy if that would happen. That would be really kind of nice. Now, let's go to the nursery, I guess you would call it. I used the old pots from the Voodoo Garden. I used old turkey pans that I've been saving. Yep, I saved my turkey pans. I actually cleaned them off and saved them up. And I used to use them to bake compost. Remember when I used to sell compost? These are the pans that I used to bake the compost. So those of you who bought the compost, yep. And this is how I grow my radishes. In shallower pans, they're only about maybe 8 inches deep because radishes don't need really deep soil in order to grow. So I figured, well, I can grow them wide and shallow. That way I can get more for my buck than putting them in a deep pot and I'd only be able to put like 2 or 3. But there's all different kinds of stuff in here, like for the lettuce. I'm going to zoom right in here. The gourmet lettuce. Normally you sprinkle them in and you have lettuce all over. No, I only put in a few seeds, like 5 seeds right in the center. 5, 5, 5. So what I'm going to do is the strongest one that comes out is going to live. So I will have 1 head of lettuce in each container. That's how it's going to work. Same thing with the collards, the Swiss chard, all the other different stuff, the Michihili, snow peas. It's nothing but soil right now. But here we go. This is what I did for, and you can do this with just a glass or any kind of piece of Tupperware. You just throw, these are alfalfa sprouts, the seeds. Yep. You just take the lid off. You throw the seeds in there, toss in water, soak them overnight. The next day you rinse them out and gently pour off the water. And once every day, when you get a moment, you can put this right by your sink so you'll remember. Once every day, you rinse out the water and pour it out, and these will stay moist all day long. If I zoom all the way in, you may be able to see the itty bitty roots just starting to come out from a few of those. I did these yesterday, and I rinsed them off today, and they're already sprouting. I did 2 containers. Now I'm going to do more containers. I just wanted to get these started. So what I'm going to do is every week, or yeah, about every week, I'm going to start 2 more containers. I have plenty of table space left, so I'm going to do more containers of these, and I'm going to just keep them rotated. And of course, I've got some sweet potatoes for Thanksgiving, and I chopped off the tip of one, and I put it in here because next year I want to grow my own sweet potatoes. Yes, I do. So I just chopped off a little piece off the tip, shoved it in soil, and it's going to grow. We're going to have sweet potato vines growing here in the Voodoo Garden, and I'm going to keep them alive all winter long and grow sweet, but not for sweet potatoes, but just for the vines. And then I'll plant them out in my garden next year. I plan on growing sweet potatoes. You know, when I was considering what I wanted to do, what my future was going to be, I had to really sit and think about it. Do I want to do this? And then I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, this is where my path is taking me. I don't really make conscious decisions. I just more or less go with my feelings. And my feeling is that the work that I've done here, and it isn't even work, but what I've done here, I'm very happy with. I'm very proud of. I've encouraged so many people to grow so many things in so many different ways that the Voodoo Garden doesn't end when I turn off the lights. It doesn't, because it's not a particular place. So it's not really sad for me when I finally clean up and fold up the tables and remove the lights and install the shelving for the seeds. It's not a sad thing for me because the Voodoo Garden is a feeling, is an idea. It's a way of doing things that I think if I did my homework right and I did my job right, I've imparted onto you. So the Voodoo Garden is going to live on in the things that you do. You'll be growing your stuff because you watch some of my programs and you got some ideas, you got some inspiration, you helped your friends do the exact same thing. So it continues. It's always going to be going, and it's something that I'm really happy about. I'm very proud of what I've done here, and I'm very proud of what the folks who have tuned in, you, have done with your little Voodoo Gardens as well. I've seen photos, I've heard testimonials about what they did, the happiness that they found, the nutrition, and the state of mind, because you know it's something that is more of a state of mind for me. It helped me mentally so much to be in here to recharge. And when I do finally just turn this into storage for the little shop of seeds, I'm going to still continue to help people grow by way of the seeds. And also one very important thing I want to make sure that you understand. When I do end the filming for this, the Voodoo Garden channel will remain. It'll always be here for you. I'm never taking it down. And any program that's on there, you can tune in, you can watch, and the Voodoo Garden just starts right back up. And if you have any questions, any concerns, any time over the coming years, all you have to do is ask a question in the comment section below. Post a comment, and I'm there for you. Because I see every single comment that's posted on every single video. And so whenever you have a concern and you're having questions or you have something you want to ask about or mention about in any of my programs, post it there and I'm there for you. So I will always be here for you. I'm not going anywhere. And that's what I wanted to tell you about the Voodoo Garden. I hope you'll tune in throughout the winter here and you're going to see things growing, greening, filling out the room. It's going to be fun, exciting, and delicious, I hope. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I'll see you next time. Until then, me and the plants, we're out of here.